particularly page setup, one of the very interesting part of a word processor. And I cannot wait to have a class with you, and join me as we do it together. And let's start with word processor. If you open a word processor, here is an office button. Previous class we talked about that. Here we have home. We have insert, page layout, reference, mailings, review, view, and many more. And in this class, we are going to talk about one item. We have already covered the previous ones. Everything in home, everything in insert. We have also covered a couple of things in page layout. And today we are talking about page setup. Say page setup. This is how you can be able to set your page, whether to be oriented or portrait. The orientation to be landscape or be portrait. Your choice is all yours. And this is where you can set to have a small page size, or you can choose to have a bigger page size. This is where you can set few columns or more columns. You cannot wait to do that. And I advise you to move with me as we use any document around that we can facilitate to practice doing page setup. First of all, I will change the view, and the view in here is at this point in orientation. That will be portrait. It is in portrait. Portrait looks more of like that, and landscape look more of like that. What's the difference? Let's check. If you have taken this paper, if you have taken that paper, okay, and then that will be landscape, and if you turn it the other way around, it is portrait. And that is the difference. How do you do that? How do you do it? You select your work and say orientation. Page setup, you were at home, you go to page setup, layout, landscape. And if you have a look on your view, you can see that the papers are, or the pages are landscape. But if you turn the same document into something else, you can see that things can change the other way around. If you turn the orientation into portrait, they look more of like that. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You can see that the orientation can change the whole thing. Your page either to look portrait or landscape. So that is orientation. Apart from that, you can select the page size. Page size is more of a different thing. It's not about the layout, but rather how or what kind of a page do you want your document to fit in. If this document was in letter, as it is in default, you can change page size to legal, which makes a bigger page compared to letter. You can see that if I choose letter, it becomes almost 1.5 pages, and size legal is bigger than letter, and so it takes more. You can see letter is usually 8.5 by 11, but legal is usually 8.5 by 14, so it is bit longer than letter. But if you choose executive, it is bit smaller compared to letter or compared to this legal paper size. If you choose executive, it is something which is bit smaller. Like you have chopped the paper on top, you have chopped it to be below, and that will be executive. A4. So you can see the difference. If you choose the same document to have A4, it is bigger than executive, bigger than the previous one. You can see A4 is narrower compared to later, because A4 is 8.27, that is the width, okay? But the height is more than the rest, which is 11.69, the length of A4. But if you choose envelope and all those kind of things, all paper size can be different. But you can go for more paper setting and even choose more paper setting. There is even A3 and and many more. You can choose different paper which are available there. And parallel to that, margin is there. You can see that the margin is around here, the same thing which can be set here. What is the margin that you're talking about? If you talk of margin, definitely you are talking of how far from the edge, inside or other side, how far from the edge do you decide to do. So the margin here can be last custom setting, that is the last one you have used, or you can choose normal. You can as well choose narrow, which makes it wider, okay? You can choose a margin of moderate, that is average, or you can choose it wide. That means the margin will be too wide. You can see here the margin is wide. But as well, if I change the margin into narrow, you can see that the document almost entirely fit within the paper given. And if I would have choose a different margin to have narrowed, it will be the document will be narrowed. And if I choose mirror, that means it will resemble the other of the different side. That is in a book which you open the way around. But if you don't want all of those, you can simply go for custom margin, and that's where the most interesting part of the work comes. First of all, if you want to have it custom, you need to be specifically choosing the paper size that you're choosing. That is A4, okay, and then you can now go for margin. If you go for top, by increasing top, you simply make the margin go below. If you increase the top of the margin, I will repeat again. For instance, I have margin 4 from top. Simply makes your document lower. That means you'll be writing in almost a half of a page. Every time there will be more space left above. But putting this margin on top, in the custom, on the top, 0.5 for instance, will simply make it make your work more or different. Let me put it at 0.5, and they say okay. You see that the top margin is the space that you need on top before you start writing. That's the top. But in the margin, custom margin, let's check on the left margin. What does that mean? The addition of the left margin simply makes your work indented onto the left. For instance, I'm putting 3. Oh, let me put 2 from the left and say okay. You can see my work has been indented on the left or on the right. Then I am changing the margin. If you change the margin from the left, simply your work from where it starts when you start writing, this is the left side, the left of your document. If you put that at 4, for instance, and say, okay, can you see that your work simply you start writing from here. Now will be too narrowed, and there will be more empty space on your left hand side. That means the margin has been increased to the left. However, you can as well change the margin to custom margin and decide to have 0.5. Enter. You can see now it goes to the end, the extreme end. I need to give you a caution. If you are going to pin that work, you cannot afford to have the margin too indented, too small, because the results will look like this. Like, you need to pin it at the edge, and as you open it, it will be more tight, more of a tight like that. But yeah, you need to have at least moderate margin in both ends. That is to say, custom margin, you can put it under normal circumstance at 1, for instance, and say, okay, the left margin. So you have enough place to pin, enough space to even to puncture your paper. For instance, if you be using this kind of a machine to puncture off your paper, you will definitely be able to puncture it very well, and you can be able to file it because the margin is on the left hand side, space enough for anyone to be able to file this work. And you can see that it is easier if you have it on the left margin. Now, the other side, the other aspect of a margin, when you are changing the margin, the gutter is something else. Okay. Now, the gutter is that space between the pages. As you open your document, this space here, that's the gutter. Now, it sounds more of like a left margin, but it is between the pages. Let me increase the margin, the gutter, and see the difference. It is it's more different, more of a similar to the left margin that you have added, but only this applies to the inner pages, not the outer pages of your document. Now, I would need to decrease the gutter as well to something as 0.5. You see? Okay. Excuse me. Now, the other aspect in page layout or page setting is the margin, but this time is, let's talk about the bottom margin. Now, if you add the bottom margin, simply means your page won't be occupied up to the bottom. I have reduced this bottom margin, and you can see that the document looks more of like that. The more I change the bottom margin from here, and let me put 3, for instance, you see the page will be used, but only a half of it. The more you add the bottom margin, the space below your work will be empty or free. With other thing in the custom margin, the more you change the right margin, it is as inverse to that of a left margin. For instance, I can have it at 1, and I could have my work at the bottom margin. Let me use it normal, and then let me use it custom margin, and then choose the bottom margin. Let me add it to 3 or 4. Let me put, you can see even the pages can be added. But if I want to change the margin on the other side, I will turn it back that into 1, but rather, and then change the margin to the other side, and that will be the right. If I put more to the right, it looks more of like that. That is to say, my work will be captured or extended from the right inside. So if you're going to use a paper, that will be the top margin. Let's do it together in the custom margin. Whatever you are setting in the top will apply here, will increase space here. Wherever you are going to set on the bottom, it's going to increase the space from the bottom. Whatever you are going to change from the left to modify your left side, and whatever you are choosing to or changing from the right, it is going to change it from this side, the right hand side. And whatever you are changing in gutter space, that is the gutter, and choosing which kind of a gutter are you choosing, that will apply whether you are pinning that book from top, that will be gutter on top, and then the work will be opened or flipped like that, or sideways. Or if you are choosing the gutter to the left, that means the book will be pinned on the sideways. Now, if you're going to pin your papers on the side, you need to choose your gutter on the left. If you are going to choose to pin on top, you need to put the gutter on top, and that will make a difference. And the layout, I've already talked about it, is portrait or landscape. Whereas portrait looks more of like this, straight, and landscape look more of like that, which will be horizontal, more horizontal. And multiple pages, you can decide to have mirror pages, 2 pages per sheet, or a book fold. It depends whatever you are printing. With the paper size, you can choose the types of paper from there. You can choose the type of the pages that you are choosing, and you can change the layout from there. Please practice as we move together. It will be easier for you if you practice, and you can see that it is easier when you practice with a document. Please, let's practice together, and I'll be playing a little music that is very interesting. Okay, so you can check. This is the margin, where you get margin. Here is the orientation. Here is the size. And in the coming part, we'll talk about the columns, page breaks, line numbers, and hyphenation. See you soon. I am Alicia Elias Lomai. Okay, so you can practice on your own, and you can see that here you have your page margins. That's where you get them from page layout, margin. Here is orientation, size, And the part of column, page break, line numbers, and hyphenation will follow soon. See you soon. I am Elisha Elias Lomai, your teacher, and may God bless you. Keep enjoying.